invocation to get the mercy of the Lord and his associates. So this is a special mantra that we always sing before starting this particular book. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Chapter 11. This chapter is called The Expansions of Lord Nityananda. Translations. This book is written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, with English translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prabhupada Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi. That's the mantra that we use to offer respects to Srila Prabhupada. So now we are starting from text, what, 21?
24?
24. 24? Oh, sorry, I don't know. Okay, 22. Yeah, we're starting from text 22. So what we do is we read the Bengali all together, and then someone will read the translation and purport. So.
No, finish it 22. It's okay. You can read.
Raghunatha Vaidya Upadhyaya Mahashaya Yanara Darshane Krishna Prema Bhakti Haya. The physician Raghunath, also known as Upadhyaya, was so great a devotee that simply by seeing him, one would awaken his dormant love of Godhead. So we're talking about all the different devotees. So these are all very great devotees, intimate devotees of the Lord's personal associates. And they're saying here that this particular associate, like others that we're talking about here, are such powerful devotees. They have so much devotional energy just exuding from them that anybody who gets close to them just gets inspired in spiritual life. And they become devotees and they develop love of God just by being around that person. So that's the symptom of a very, very great and empowered devotee. Text 23. Sundarananda Nityanandera Shaka Pritya Marma Yanra Sange Nityananda Kare Brajanama.
Translation. Sundarananda, another branch of Nityananda Prabhu, was Lord Nityananda's most intimate servant. Lord Nityananda Prabhu perceived the life of Rajabhumi in his company. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Anchakanda, chapter 5, it is stated that Sundarananda was an ocean of love of Godhead and the chief associate of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. In the Gaura Gonadesha Deepika 127, he is stated to have been Sudama and Krishna Leela. Thus, he was one of the 12 cowherd boys who came down with Balarama when he descended as Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The holy place where Sundarananda lived is situated in the village known as Maheshapura, which is about 14 miles east of Mahajadiya railway station of the Eastern Railway of the Central Burdwan. This place is within the district of relics of this village. Only the old residential house of Sundarananda still exists. At the end of the village resides a Baula pseudo Vaishnava, and all the buildings, both the temple and the house, appears to be newly constructed. In Mahesapura, there are deities of Sri Radha Vallabha and Sri Radha Ramana. Near the temple is a small river of the name Vetravati.
Just pause there, sir. So
Yeah.
just say a few words.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, this devotee Sundarananda says that he was a cowherd boy in Krishna's pastimes, and that he came down with Lord Nityananda, who was Balaram, to help, to assist in the Lord's pastimes. So this is a very mystical thing that happens, is that when the Lord comes, associates with him, and then whatever he's doing, they just take forms and bodies and play roles that are appropriate for assisting the Lord in whatever it is that he wants to do. So the Lord comes. We are very fortunate on this planet that the Lord comes different times throughout the history of the universe for different purposes. And yeah, each time he comes with his eternal associates. So this Sundarananda is one of those eternal associates that comes with him. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport is giving us information about the place where he lived, the old house that he used to live. He said that it still exists there. And he's even describing that at the end of the village resides this old person who pretends to be a devotee was not really a devotee. Like, as if, I mean, it's interesting that Prabhupada put that in there because I mean, obviously, these books are going to last for generations, and this old Baula is not going to be there for much longer. But anyways, it was a point of interest. Anybody at that time that wanted to find it. So why don't we just, Kritika, do you want to read that second paragraph?
Yeah. Sundarananda Prabhu was a Naishtika brahmachari. He never married in his life, therefore he had no direct descendants except his disciples, but the descendants of his family still reside in the village known as Mangala Dehi in the district of Birbhum. In that same village is the temple of Balaram, and the deity there is regularly worshipped. The original deity of Maheshpura, Radha Vallabh, was taken by the Saidabad Goswamis of Berhampur, and since the present deities were installed, the Zamindar family of Maheshpura has looked after their worship. On the full moon day of the month of Magha, January-February, the anniversary of Sundarananda's appearance is regularly celebrated, and people from the neighboring areas gather together to observe this festival.
Yeah, so this is a nice thing that you see, like in these Indian villages, the places of the appearance places of the devotees that, so, you know, when somebody appears in a village, then they become like a village hero. And then there's like some shrine or monument or temple that, you know, marks their birthplace, marks the place where they live, the place, maybe the temple, the deities that they used to worship are there. And so everybody in the village, they have a lot of love for that saint who, you know, was born and lived in their village. And so every year they celebrate festivals that are related to that saint. And then maybe sometimes people from neighboring villages on that day, because they know there's going to be a big festival, they all go to that village and then they take part in the festival. And then maybe other villages, another great saint appeared. And so then the people from that village go to that village. And just like here, like in North America nowadays, there are certain temples that are famous for certain festivals or events, right? Like the Atlanta Temple is famous for Panihati Festival. So there's one festival that happens anyways, it's called the Panihati Festival. So it's an annual festival and they do a big celebration. Not all temples really even celebrate it much, but that temple, they do a huge celebration. Everybody goes there. And then what
Do that festival, Swan Boat. Oh, but we do it here.
yeah, they do that like every Saturday night in the summertime. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like annual festivals. Maybe like Rath Yatra, you know, New York Rath Yatra or San Francisco. Of course, nowadays they do a lot of Rath Yatras. But for example, Gaur Purnima Festival, everyone goes to Mayapur, right? Like that. So yeah, there's certain, or festivals have special events, like we have Kirtan 50 in Dallas, New Year's time. So people come from all over the country and they come to Dallas for New Year's because we have Kirtan 50. And then, yeah, other temples have different events that they try to attract people to. So it's good, you know, devotees can travel around and visit different temples and appreciate those festivals different, and that, you know, make friends in a broader network of devotees. Okay, text 24. Kamalakara Pipalai Alaukika Rita Alaukika Prema Tanra Bhuvane Vidita.
Kamalakara Pipalai is said to have been the third Gopala. His behavior and love of God were uncommon, and thus he is celebrated all over the world. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in Anubhashya in the Gaura Ganadesha Dipika 128, Kamalakara Pipalai is described as the third Gopala. His former name was Mahavala. The Jagannatha deity at Mahisa in Sri Ramapura was installed by Kamalakara Pipalai. This village of Mahisha is situated about 2.5 miles from Sri Ramapura railway station. The genealogy of the family of the Kamalakara Pipalai is given as follows. Kamalakara Pipalai had a son named Chaturbhuja, who had two sons named Narayana and Jagannatha. Narayana had one son named Jagadananda, and his son's name was Rajiva Lochana. During the time of Rajiva Lochana, there was a scarcity of finances for the worship of the Jagannath deity, and it is said that the Nawab of Dacha, whose name was Sar Suja, donated 1185 bighas of land, about 395 acres in the Bengali year 1653 AD. The land being the possession of Jagannatha, the village was named Jagannathapura. It is said that when Kamalakara Pipalai left home, his younger brother named Nidhipati Pipalai searched for him and in due course of time found him in the village of Mahisha. Nidhipati Pipalai tried his best to bring his elder brother home, but he would not return. Under these circumstances, Nidhipati Pipalai with all his family members came to Mahisa to reside. The members of this family still reside in the vicinity of the Mahisa village. Their family name is Adhikari, and they are a Brahmana family. The history of the Jagannath temple in Mahisa is as follows. One devotee of the name Dhruvananda went to see Lord Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra at Jagannath Puri, wanting to offer food to Jagannath Ji that he had cooked with his own hands. This being his desire, one night Jagannath Ji appeared to him in the dream and asked him to go to Mahisa on the bank of the Ganges and there start worship of him in a temple. Thus, Dhruvananda went to Mahisa, where he saw the three deities, Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra, floating in the Ganges. He picked up the great weapon and he executed the worship of Lord Jagannath. When he became old, he was very anxious to hand over the worship to the charge of someone reliable, and in a dream he got permission from Jagannath to hand it over to a person whom he would meet the next morning. The next morning he met Kamalakara Pipalai, who was formerly an inhabitant of the village Khalijuli in the Sudharvana forest area of Bengal and was pure Vaishnava, a great devotee of Lord Jagannath. Thus, he immediately gave him charge of the worship. In this way, Kamalakara Pipala became the worshipper of Lord Jagannath, and since then, his family members has been designated as Adhikari, which means one who is empowered to worship the Lord. These Adhikaris belong to a respectable Brahmana family. 5 types of upper class Brahmanas are recognized by the surname Pipalai.
Wow, that's a wild story, right? Did you guys follow that? So we're talking about this Kamalakara Pipalai, who he had a dream or something in which the Lord told him to go to this place called Mahesh. So he moved there, and then his family was really upset about it because he just apparently just disappeared, and he didn't tell them where he was going. He just had this dream, and he just woke up and like left. So then they were like very worried. So they sent the brother to go and find him. Brother was looking all over the place for this other brother. And then finally he found him and he said, all right, come on home. What are you doing here? Come back. Our mother and father are going crazy with anxiety about you. Please come home. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. The Lord told me to come here. I'm staying. So then the family, since they couldn't get him to come home, they all moved to Mahesh. The whole family is there. And so he's there and he's worshiping this Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra deities. So then Prabhupada is telling us how those Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra deities got to be there. That there was this devotee living there named Dhruvananda, and he went to yeah, he went to Jagannath Puri, and he got inspired by the deities there, and he thought, I want to serve them. But he wasn't able to serve the deities in Jagannath Puri because the services were, they didn't have any service openings or whatever. So then he thought, he's like feeling, he had this desire, right, to serve Lord Jagannath. So then he had a dream that the Jagannath deity came and said, if you go to Mahesh and this village and look in the Ganges River, you're going to find some logs there, and some deities there, because the Jagannath Palace is made out of wood, so they're floating. And he went down to the riverside, and lo and behold, there were these three, wooden deities bobbling along in the river. And so he pulled them out and he installed them, and that way he was worshiping. So they made a temple gradually, and he was worshiping them until he got really old. And then he was very concerned because all his life, those were his personal deities that were self-manifest, that he had this dream, and it was very mystical how it all happened. So he dedicated his life to those deities, and he was thinking, I'm getting too old now. Who's going to take care of them after I die? And then, so then in a dream, the Lord came and said, the first person you meet tomorrow, that person will take care of me. You just tell him the situation, and he will take over the management of the worship. And so the first person he met was this Kamalakara Pipalai. So he became the worshiper of Lord Jagannath, and his family had already moved to Mahesh because they couldn't live without him. So the whole family became engaged in the worship of this Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra deities. Yeah. So amazing things happen, right? When you're a devotee of the Lord, you might get some transcendental dream in which the Lord tells you to go somewhere and do some service. So it's nice how, when you become a devotee, then the Lord really kind of, he really directs us, right? If you really just surrender to Krishna and be like, all right, I'm going to be a devotee, I devote my life to serving Krishna, then he's like, okay, here's what you do. Somehow or other, he is able to communicate his instructions, either maybe through guru or through some senior devotees, or in a dream, or some way. Okay, text 25. Suryadas Sarakela Tanrabai Krishnadasa Nityanande Dudha Vishwasa Premara Nivasa.
Suryadas Sarkela and his younger brother Krishnadas Sarkela both possessed firm faith in Nityananda Prabhu. They were a reservoir of love of Godhead. In the Bhakti Ratnakar 12th wave, it is stated that a few miles from Navdvip is a place called Shaligram that was the residence of Suryadas Sarkela. He was employed as a secretary in the Muslim government of that time, and thus he amassed a good fortune. Surya Das had four brothers, all of whom were pure Vaishnavas. Vasudha and Janava were two daughters of Surya Das Sarkela.
These Vasudha and Janava ended up being two wives of Lord Nityananda. The two sisters both got married to Lord Nityananda. So he was Lord Nityananda's father-in-law. Goridasa Panditayana Prema Danda Bhakti Krishna Prema Dite Nite Dara Mahashakti. Vrindavan Natvar, you want to read?
Goridas Pandit, the emblem of the most elevated devotional service and love of Godhead, had the greatest potency to receive and deliver such love. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, it is said that Goridas Pandit was always patronized by King Krishnadas, the son of Harihoda. Goridas Pandit lived in the village of Shaligram, which is situated a few miles from the railway station Mudagacha, and later he came to reside in Ambika Kalana. It is stated in the Gauraganadesh Deepika, verse 128, that formerly he was Subal, one of the cowherd boyfriends of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. Goridas Pandit was the younger brother of Suryadas Sarakela, and with the permission of his elder brother, he shifted his residence to the bank of the Ganges, living there in the town known as Ambika Kalana. Some of the names of the descendants of Goridas Pandit are as follows. Sri Narsimha Chaitanya, Krishna Das, Vishnu Das, Bada Balaram Das, Govinda, Raghunath, Badhu Ganga Das, Auliya Gangaram, Yadavacharya, Hridaya Chaitanya, Chanda Haladar, Mahesh Pandit, Mukut Roy, Patuya Gangaram, Auliya Chaitanya, Kaliya Krishna Das, Patuya Gopal, Bada Jagannath, Nityananda Bhavi, Jagadish, Raya Krishna Das, and Annapurna. The eldest son of Gauridas Pandit was known as Big Balaram, and the youngest was known as Raghunath. The sons of Raghunath were Mahesh Pandit and Govinda. Gauridas Pandit's daughter was known as Annapurna. The village Ambika Kalana, which is situated just across the river Ganges from Shantipur, is 2 miles east of the Kalana Korta railway station on the Eastern Railway. In Ambika Kalana, there is a temple constructed by the Zamindar of Burdwan. In front of the temple, there is a big tamarind tree, and it is said that Gauridas Pandit and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met underneath this tree. The place where the temple is situated is known as Ambika, and because it is the area of Kalana, the village is known as Ambika Kalana. It is said that a copy of the Bhagavad Gita written by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu still exists in this temple.
Lord Chaitanya wrote it with his own hand. Yeah, we were talking about that, how Lord Chaitanya, when he was traveling, he would find books. And in those days, they didn't have, copy machines or printers or, computers or anything. So if you wanted a book, you had to get paper and, sit down and copy it out by hand. So apparently Lord Chaitanya found a Bhagavad Gita there and copied it out. Or he found it somewhere else and it was his and he left it there. So there's an interesting, I've actually been to this place, Ambika Kalana, and there's a really nice little temple there that was Gauridas Pandit's temple, and he has deities of Gaurnitai there. So if you go there and you try to take darshan, so they open they don't have curtains, they have doors, wooden doors like that. So you go in for darshan and then the doors will open. They'll be open for about 30 seconds and then they'll close. And then they'll be closed for, a couple of minutes and then they'll open again for about 30 seconds and then they close. So you just have to stand there and wait. You get a tiny little glimpse, and then before you even manage to see everything from head to toe, it closes. So then you just got to stand there and wait for it to open again. So there's a reason for that, and the reason is because Gauridas Pandit, he was there, Lord Chaitanya, and he was very close with Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and so they came to his place there in Ambika Kalana. They were there at his house. And then they told him that we're going now. We're leaving now. And then he was so attached to them. He was like, no, you can't leave. You have to stay. How am I going to live without you? Now you've spent some time with me here. I got so attached to you. I'll just die if you leave. And then he said, well, we're sorry, but we have to go. And then he said, you can't go. Anyways, he was really pushy about it. So then Lord Chaitanya said, okay, what we'll do is we'll get some life-size deities, and then, those deities will be non-different from us, and you just worship the deities, and it'll be the same as worshiping us. However you want to serve us, you serve the deities, and we accept the service through the deities, which is the whole point of deities, right? Mm-hmm. That it's the Lord accepts service through the deities. So then Gauridas Pandit said, okay, we can try that, see how it goes. So then Lord Chaitanya actually went and had someone carve deities of him and Nityananda, brought them back. They looked identical because the lords were standing there in front of the sculptor saying, make deities that look just like us. And the sculptor, they empowered the sculptor to make deities just like. So then they came with these big deities because Lord Chaitanya was big. Anyways, they came with the deities and then they put the deities on the altar. And they said, okay, Gauridas, are you happy? Now we can go, right? And then Gauridas was very smart. So he said, wait, let me see. Oh yeah. And he said, well, you said that these deities are non-different from you, right? And then Lord Chaitanya says, they said, yeah, totally the same. He said, okay, well, then how about the deities go and you stay. If you're exactly the same, if you're exactly no different from the deities go, you two stay. So then Lord Chaitanya and Lord Adi-lila said, okay, fine. So then they went on the altar and they stepped on the altar and they stood there and the deities jumped off the altar and then they're walking out the door. And then Gauridas Pandit said, hey, you tricked me. You just did some sleight of hand there and you went away. And so then Lord said, oh, you think that's the deities and this is us? Okay, so we'll just switch. So then they got back on the altar, they stood there, the deities jumped off the altar, started walking out the door, and Gauridas Pandit was like, wait a minute. No, you just reversed what you did before. So and then they kept doing that. They did it so many times that Gauridas Pandit didn't know now like who was the original and who was the deity. And they was like, okay, you guys just go. And then yeah. They were able to leave. Yeah, the deities are still there. So now the thing is that so now if you go there, the thing is that the pujaris don't let the doors stay open very long because they're worried that those deities are going to jump off and run away because they did it before and they can do it again.
That's a nice example that deities and Lord are saying.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I can go to the temple in Radhakala Chanji there. We feel something. Like there's definitely something special about, seeing the deities there, but at the same time we're like, okay, they're statues, they don't move, they don't walk, they don't talk, we can pray to them and we can appreciate their deity. But, they're not exactly Krishna, but devotees who have like deeper level of realization, they can understand that actually Krishna is there in all of his potencies. Okay. We read about Gauridas Pandit. Text 27. Nityanande Samarpila Jati Kula Panti Sri Chaitanya Nityanande Kari Pranapati. Would you like to read, Tali? Did you find it there? You got to unmute yourself if you're there. Okay, you go ahead, Rich. You got it?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhupada Priya. Making Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda the lords of his life, Gauridasa Pandita sacrificed everything for the service of Lord Nityananda, even the fellowship of his own family.
Yeah, Gauridas Pandit was full-on devotee. So we were hearing about how he's Subal Saka, the cowherd boy named Subal in the spiritual world. So Subal is like one of the most intimate, if not the most intimate, of Krishna's cowherd boys. Right? Like some of the cowherd boys, they play. I mean, all the cowherd boys play with Krishna, but some of them are very clued in as to Krishna's relationship with Srimati Radharani, and they actually help him get together with Srimati Radharani and the gopis. They send messages and they sometimes go with him and stuff like that. So whereas the other cowherd boys, they're just the boys, they don't get involved with Krishna's pastimes with the gopis at all. But Subal is one of the very intimate ones. It's called the Priya Narma Saka. Yeah, Bhakti Rich.
Hare Krishna Prabhupada Priya. I know this question is kind of about the previous verses, but do we have any information or records of the deities walking off the altar, like more recent times, like more recently than this story?
I'm not sure when. There's another pastime. I'm not sure when it happened, but there's the story of Sakshi Gopal. Right, there was one Brahmin, and he went to Vrindavan on pilgrimage, and he was an elderly person, so he had some difficulty walking. And then there was this young Brahmin who was young, fit, strong, and he saw the elderly Brahmin. He was really, a genuine Vaishnava, a very good character, and he saw that he needed some help. So then he just volunteered to, carry his bag and assist him in different ways. And he joined him, and he just traveled. They were traveling on foot, and he just traveled with him on to various places of pilgrimage. And then when they got to Vrindavan, they went to a temple there where there's a deity of Gopal. Gopal is the name of Krishna. So in front of the Gopal deity, this old man, he said to the young Brahmin, he said, you know, I'm so grateful for the help that you've given me. You've been with me for days and days and weeks, and carrying my things and serving me and taking care of me and massaging my feet and, you know, doing everything to help me make my pilgrimage possible, successful. And said, I don't know how to repay you except that I want to offer you my daughter as your wife. Will you please marry my daughter? She's a qualified girl. You're a qualified boy, both from Brahmin families. And so the young Brahmin, he was very honored. You know, he was very flattered and appreciative. But he said, "There's one problem with this, my dear sir." And that is that, you know, you're from a very wealthy family. And even though I'm a Brahmin, but my family is very poor. And, you know, you can understand that despite my poverty, I'm a good person, but the rest of your family is not going to maybe appreciate that. And they're not going to accept this arrangement at all. They're going to feel really bad about their sister. You know, your wife is not going to like her daughter going to the house of a poor boy and maybe having to have a lower standard of living and have some austerities, you know, that she grew up in a certain standard of comfort and she's not going to have that with me. So he was like, you know, being very realistic and sensible. And then the Brahmin said, he said, no, don't worry about that. She's a good girl. She's very Brahminical. She's not bothered about money and comforts. She's just going to be happy to have a good husband who loves her and cares about her and is intelligent, spiritual, devoted, and she will marry you. And the family will have to accept because, after all, I'm the head of the household. So then the young Brahmin still had some doubts. And so he said, okay, how about this? Let you go in front of the Gopal deity and make a promise that no matter what happens, you are going to hand over your daughter to me when we get back to your village. So then he went in front, he took a solemn oath in front of the Gopal deity that, please, I'm making this promise. You please maintain my word. And this Brahmin is going to marry my daughter at the end of the pilgrimage when we get home. So then young Brahma was satisfied. He thought, okay, when you make a promise before the deity, that's a promise you have to keep because the Lord has witnessed it. So then they go home, and then just like the young Brahmin said, the rest of the family were totally outraged, you know, at the proposal of their sister marrying this poor, you know, destitute Brahmin. And so the son of the elderly Brahmin, the girl's brother, he was like, Dad, we're not going through with this. We're not going to let you do this. You know, and then the father was like, well, I made a promise. You know, what am I going to do when he comes? You know, I can't go back on my word. And then the son said, you don't have to lie. You just tell him that you forgot, that you don't remember what you said. You don't remember making any promise. You're old, you know, senile, you forget things. And yeah. So then the young Brahmin came and he said, I've come here to, you know, meet your daughter and so forth. And then the son came out and he was like, no, you go away. What are you? And then my father didn't make any promise. And then he said, okay, you call your father, let's talk. So the father came out and he said, oh, I'm really sorry, I just don't remember. Anyways, so like that. And then the young Brahmin said, but you made a promise in front of the Gopal deity. So then the son of the man said, he said, okay, well, if the only witness to this promise was Gopal, because the son, he was not a devotee. He didn't believe in the power of the deities. He didn't believe that the deity was really, you know, anything other than a stone statue. So he thought he was going to be very smart. And he was like, all right, well, if the only witness was Gopal and this deity in Vrindavan, then, you know, if you can bring the witness to come and, you know, testify that he heard my father make this promise, then you can marry her. So he was like, the deity's never going to come. The deity can't walk. The deity can't talk. The deities can't leave the temple. He's a stone. What's he going to do? So then, but the young Brahmin had faith, and he went all the way back to Vrindavan, and he went to the temple, and he went to Gopal, and he said, Gopal, remember I was here with that old Brahmin, and he made the promise that I would marry his daughter. Well, unfortunate situation has happened, and the old Brahmin is compromising his truthfulness. And, it's not about me that I'm really even desiring to marry the girl, but I don't like to see the old Brahmin, this nice devotee of yours, being, manipulated and basically abused by his atheistic son. So can you please come and, restore the honor of this devotee? So then the Gopal deity, he said, how can I come? I'm a deity, I can't just go somewhere. I'm a deity. I can't walk. And then, but he said that. So then the young Brahmani said, well, if you can talk, then you can walk. So he kind of caught him there. And then Gopal said, oh, well, okay. So here's the deal. You go and you walk in the front and I will follow you, and you're not allowed to look back. So we're going to go through the forest. We're not going on any open roads because no one can see. And we're going to walk all day long. And then at the end of the day, you cook a certain amount of rice, and then you leave it. And then you just, I will eat, and you go to sleep. So that was it, So all the young Brahmin could do was, and the young Brahmin said, how am I going to know that you're walking behind me if I'm not allowed to look? And he said, you're going to hear the tinkling of my ankle bells. So the whole way, this young Brahmin, can you imagine? He was like dying to see the Lord walking, but he couldn't. Oh, and he said, if you do turn around and look, I'm going to stop and I'm not going to go any further. So don't even think about it. So he's walking. He's just listening for the ankle bells the whole way. He's just walking and listening to the ankle bells. And he's like, oh my God, Gopal is behind me, walking. The deity's walking. Krishna's right behind me. Anyways, he walks all the way to the outskirts of the village. And then he's walking and he can't hear the sound of the ankle bells anymore. So then he walks a bit more, he can't hear, he walks a bit more, he can't hear, and then he gets worried, like, what happened? Did he disappear? So he turns around, and then all of a sudden he's like, that's it. Gopal freezes there. Now he's not going to take a step further because he looked. So then, but anyways, they're at the outskirts of the village. They're not that far away. So he goes running to the village. He says, come, everybody, come. Bring everybody in the village to, witness this. Gopal has come to testify. And so they all went there. And when they all saw the Gopal deity just standing there, like, in the woods on the edge of the village, then they all just paid their obeisances there. And they're just like, oh my God, this, now I have to, what can I do? Now we have to give the girl. So then they had their wedding there. And that deity, the deity refused to move anywhere after that. So they just built a temple there for the deity, and that temple's still there. And to this day, that his name was Gopal, and now he's called Sakshi Gopal. The Sakshi means witness. He's the witness Gopal because he came to bear witness for his devotee.
Thank you for your very nice answer, Prabhupada Priya.
It's a long story, right?
I happened to see those deities, like when we went.
You went to Sakshi Gopal?
Yeah, when we went, it was morning time. So he was like, after Mangalarti, not wearing any clothes or something. And he was only wearing this, and big Sakshi Gopal, like big deities are only wearing a Tulsi garland, and we could see like all his, how you say Krishna's body, like so, the statue is like so thin, and like it actually looks like a man. So big.
Yeah. God, he's huge.
Let's see.
Yeah. Wow.
Outside of Orissa, some distance from
It's like in
Orissa.
between Katak and Orissa.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Cuttack. Yeah.
Near Katak, yeah.
Near Cuttack.
We went to Katak a few years ago because I have a friend who lives there. We wanted to go see him, but the thing is, they don't allow Westerners in that temple.
Oh, Krishna.
Where is this Prabhupada Sakshi Gopal temple?
Cuttack in Odisha.
Yeah.
But he's so huge.
Right? He's big.
And it actually feels like Krishna is there. Like it's very nice temple.
Okay, good question, Rich. There's also, I told the story the other day about Raghunandana, that he was actually eating the offering.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes actually, something happened very recently.
It's so
I'll
weird.
tell you, this is pretty amazing. In New Vrindavan, so this was back during the time Prabhupada had already left the planet. Yeah, Prabhupada already left the planet. Kirtanananda Maharaj was there. And there was this group of there's this motorcycle gang. Yeah, the Hells Angels. Motorcycle gang came. They came like a bunch of them driving into the temple property. And New Vrindavan is very remote. It's like in the middle of nowhere. It's in the mountains. And this gang came in. They had guns and everything. And then they threatened they went to Kirtanananda Maharaj, who was the leader, and they said, "We're going to kill you and all of you guys, and get your shovels and dig your grave." So yeah, so they went up to the top of the hill, and Kirtananda was there with a shovel, and he was like digging at gunpoint his own grave. What else was he gonna do, right? He's thinking, well, at least I can bide some time here by digging. He's digging, and then he's it's almost deep enough that they're gonna just like kill him and put him in the grave, and then all of a sudden they hear this huge thunderous sound, like it sounds like a bomb going off, and then all those Hell's Angels get really scared because they think the police or the military came and they're doing like a bust because they heard about it, and these guys are all gonna get imprisoned for life and stuff. So they just fled. They just fled into the forest and they ran off, and they got into their motorcycles and drove away. Like they got out of there quickly and they didn't do any damage. And the devotees are like, what caused that noise? They didn't know. And then one devotee who was in the temple, he said that the deity of Srimati Radharani jumped off the altar and fell down on the floor and made that huge crashing noise. Like this crazy, otherworldly. I mean, she's a marble deity. And, so it would have been like marble hitting on marble. Would have made some sound, but it wouldn't have made that sound. Right? It made some crazy sound that, scared everybody. And the other wild thing is that marble's actually very brittle. Even the deities, you have to be careful when you're dressing them, or that you don't put some heavy basket of flowers or something, because the marble breaks very easily. So would this speak of jumping off, like a 4-foot high altar onto the marble floor, and not a thing broke, not a pinky finger off her hand broke.
Where is
New Vrindavan. Yeah.
I never heard this story.
No, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Oh, you're with us, right? Yeah.
So yeah, so that's example of a deity taking action to save the devotee's life. I know. Okay, that was a modern one. That happened just probably in the late 70s, early 80s. During my lifetime. During Mother Vaidehi's lifetime, at least. The rest of you? Maybe not. Text 29. Wait, did we do? Oh no, we didn't do. Did we do 28? No.
We need to do 28.
Nityananda Prabhu Priya Pandita Purandara Premarnava Madhye Pire Yaichana Mandara. Divya?
Krishna, the 13th important devotee of Sri Nityananda Prabhu was Pandita Purandara, who moved in the ocean of love of Godhead, just like the Mandar hill. Pandit Purandar met Sri Nityananda Prabhu at Kadadaha. When Nityananda Prabhu visited this village, he danced very uncommonly, and his dancing captivated Purandar Pandit. The Pandit was in the top of a tree, and upon seeing the dancing of Nityananda, he jumped down on the ground and proclaimed himself to be Angada, one of the devotees in the camp of Hanuman during the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra.
Oh my God. See, I told you Lord Nityananda's devotees are very eccentric. So this Pandit Purandara, he was like up in a tree. Lord Nityananda started dancing, and then he got so ecstatic that he jumped out of the tree and started dancing with Lord Nityananda. But he said that he's Angada. So yeah, Angada is one of the, Sugri them. So Angad is one of them. That was a messenger that went to challenge Ravana.
Bali's son.
Bali's son, was he? Okay. Parameshvara Dasa Nityanandaika Sharana Krishna Bhakti Paya Tanre Ekare Smarana. Hannah? Are you there, Hannah?
I think she had said she's not reading.
Oh, she said she's not reading. Okay, sorry. Right, back to me then. Parameshvara Das, said to be the fifth Gopal of Krishna Lila, completely surrendered to the lotus feet of Nityananda. Anyone who remembers his name, Parameshvara Das, will get love of Krishna very easily. Oh, we just remembered his name, Parameshvara Das. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya, the Caitanya Bhagavat says that Parameshvara Das, known sometimes as Parameshvari Das, was the life and soul of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The body of Parameshvara Das was the place of Lord Nityananda's pastimes. Parameshvara Das, who lived for some time at Kadadaha village, was always filled with the ecstasy of a cowherd boy. Formerly, he was Arjuna, a friend of Krishna and Balaram. So there's Arjuna, the Pandava Arjuna, but then there's another Arjuna who's a cowherd boy Arjuna. He was the fifth among the 12 Gopals. He accompanied Srimati Janava Devi when she performed the festival at Ketari. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakar that by the order of Sri Janavamata, he installed Radha Gopinath in the temple at Attapur in the district of Hooghly. The Attapur station is on the narrow gauge railway line between Howrah and Amata. Another temple in Attapur, established by the Mitra family, is known as the Radha Govinda temple. In front of the temple in a very attractive place among two bakul trees and a kadamba tree is the tomb of Parameshwari Thakur, and above it is an altar with a tulsi bush. It is said that only one flower a year comes out of the kadamba tree that is offered to the deity. Parameshwari Thakur belonged, it is said, to a Vaidya family. A descendant of his brothers is at present a worshipper in the temple. Some of their family priests still reside in the district of Hooghly, near the post office of Chanditala. The descendants of Parameshwari Thakur took many disciples from Brahmana families, but as these descendants gradually took to the profession of physicians, persons from Brahmin families ceased becoming their disciples. The family titles of Parameshwari's descendants are Adhikari and Gupta. Unfortunately, his family members do not worship the deity directly. They have engaged paid Brahmins to worship the deity. In the temple, Baladev and Shri Shri Radha Gopinath are together on the throne. It is supposed that the deity of Baladev was installed later because, according to Transcendental Mellow, Baladev, Krishna, and Radha cannot stay on the same throne. On the full moon day of Vaishakha, April-May, the disappearance festival of Parameshwari Thakur is observed in this temple. Parameshwari Thakur ki jai. Jagadisha Pandita Haya Jagat Kavana Krishna Prema Mrita Varshe Yena Varsha Gana.
Translation. Jagdish Pandita, the 15th branch of Lord Nityananda's followers, was the deliverer of the entire world. Devotional love of Krishna showered from him like a torrents of rain. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, written in his Anubhasya, description of Jagadish Pandita are available from Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi-kanda, chapter 6, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila, chapter 14. She belonged to the village of Yasoda Grama in the district of Nadia near the Chakadaha railway station. His father, the son of Bhatta Narayana, was named Amalaksha. Both his father and mother were great devotees of Lord Vishnu. And after their death, Jagadisha with his wife Dukni and brother Mahesha left his birthplace, came to the Sri Mayapur to live in a company of Jagannath Misra and other Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya asked Jagadisha to go to Jagannath Puri to preach the Harinama Sankirtana movement. After returning from Jagannath Puri, on the order of Lord Jagannath, he established deities of Jagannatha in the village of Yasodhagrama. It is said that when Jagadish Pandita brought the deity of Jagannatha to Yasodhagrama, he tied the heavy deity to a stick and thus brought him to the village. The priest of the temple still show the stick used by Jagadish Pandita to carry the Jagannath deity.
Another instance of Lord Jagannath telling some devotee to open a temple, right? Start a new temple. So Lord Jagannath, he likes to go to other places, expand himself, right? And when Srila Prabhupada was here in America, so he started the temple at New York, but he didn't install deities in New York. And then later he went to San Francisco, and Prabhupada was thinking the movement is very new, the devotees are very young, they're not second initiated and all that. And so he wasn't installing deities. He was going to wait until they were like, more advanced, more fixed up and qualified to actually worship the deities properly. But he was in San Francisco, and then Malati came home one day, and she had gone to the, what's it called, Pier 1 import shop, and she had seen these little like figurines that looked like some Indian thing. And she thought, oh, maybe Prabhupada will find this interesting. She thought it was cute, so she brought it back, and it was a little Jagannath deity. And she said, Prabhupada, I found something really interesting today that's imported from India. I wonder if you can tell me like what this is all about. And so she takes him out of her pocket, and then she shows Prabhupada, and Prabhupada immediately like his obeisances on the floor. He said, this is Jagannath, the Lord of the universe. And then he asked her, he said, this is a black one. Was there also a white one and a yellow one? And she said, yeah. They had black, white, and yellow, a whole basket full of them. They had a whole like crate full of them. Some like Westerners that went to India not knowing even what these things are. And it's like, this is cute. The hippies will probably like them. They're selling them. Anyways, so Prabhupada said, go back there and get the, buy the white one and the yellow one too. And this we have all three, one of each. And so she did that. And then Malati's husband, Shamasundar, he was a carpenter and he was very good at carving wood also. So Prabhupada said, Shamasundar, can you carve large forms of these? And he said they should be like this big, and he said, yeah, I can do that. And Prabhupada said, so then he carved big Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra deities. So those were the first deities in ISKCON. Jagannath. Yeah, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra in San Francisco. And then the next deities were in London, Radha London. The first Radha Krishna deities were in London. But the first deities ever were Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra in San Francisco. And then as soon as they got those, Prabhupada was like, now we need to do Ratha Yatra. And so, San Francisco got the name New Jagannath Puri Dham because Jagannath appeared there, and they did the first Ratha Yatra there, and Prabhupada was so happy. Like in the beginning, it was just simple. Like they just got like a flatbed truck. They put the deities back on the truck, and they decorated it, and they cooked a lot of prasadam, and they went down the main street and down to the beach in San Francisco. It's so much kirtan. Prabhupada was like ecstatic that he was able, because when Prabhupada was a little boy, he always wanted to do Ratha Yatra, and his father got an old cart and they fixed it up, and he did Ratha Yatra in the streets of the neighborhood when he was like young, like 7-8 years old. So Prabhupada was very attached to Lord Jagannath. And when he was a young man and like a teenager, he was always wanting to go to Puri. When he was a college student, he kept he was in Calcutta, and he kept going down to the train station and looking at the times for trains to Puri, thinking, I want to go to Puri, but he could never go because he had his responsibilities and stuff. But then finally he went. So Prabhupada always had this thing in his heart for Lord Jagannath. So he must have been very happy to see Jagannath in San Francisco. Not expecting that, right? So yeah, so Jagannath, so we're seeing here that he keeps appearing to devotees and saying, please, deity is coming, or somehow the deity is manifesting in the river in mystical ways, and take this deity and build a temple in this village or city. So this Jagadish Pandit did that in Yashoda Gram. Temple is still there, I guess. Okay, should we do one more? Let's do one more.
Yes.
Text 31. Nityananda Priya Nritya Pandita Dhananjaya Atyanta Virakta Sada Krishna Prema Maya.
Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya, Pandit Dhananjay was a resident of the village in Katwa named Sitala. He was one of the 12 Gopalas. His former name, according to Gaur Ganodesh Deepika, was Vasudama. Sitala Grama is situated near the Mangala Kota police station and Kechara post office in the district of Burdwan. On the narrow railway from Burdwan to Katwa is the railway station about 9 miles from Katwa known as Kechara. One has to go about a mile northeast of this station to reach Sitala. The temple was a thatched house with walls made of dirt. Some time ago, the zamindars of Bajaravana, Kabasi, the Maliks constructed a big house for the purpose of the temple, but for the last 65 years, the temple has been broken down and abandoned. The foundation of the old temple is still visible. There is a Tulasi pillar near the temple, and every year during the month of Kartika, October, November, the disappearance day of Dhananjay is observed. It is said that for some time Pandit Dhananjay was in a Sankirtan party under the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he went to Vrindavan. Before going to Vrindavan, he lived for some time in a village named Shanchada Panchada, which is 6 miles of the Enmari railway station. Sometimes this village is also known as the place of Dhananjay, Dhananjayera Patha. After some time, he left the responsibility for worship with a disciple and went back to Vrindavan. After returning from Vrindavan to Situla Grama, he established a deity of Gaur Sundar in the temple. The descendants of Pandit Dhananjay still live in Situla Grama and look after the temple worship.
Sure. Yeah, what we're seeing here is that people start. It's always a bit of a problem to maintain the temples. Right? You're seeing like people getting old and they're wondering who's going to take care of the temple, or people, the main caretaker of the temple who started the temple has to leave, and then the temple just kind of becomes neglected and falls into disrepair. So sometimes that happens, unfortunately, right? And the deities just get kind of like neglected or abandoned. The Srila Prabhupada was very insistent that, don't install the deities unless you can look after them properly. You need to have 10 Brahmins in the community who are dedicated to worshipping the deity, doing all of the rituals and things properly, all the offerings, all the artis, dressing, and so forth. And have a high standard of deity worship. So, yeah, we need to all help out. So nice that you all are helping out, right? Every day the girls here are making garlands for the deities so that the deity worship can go on nicely with fresh flowers. Yeah, nowadays you go to India and some temples, the deities don't have fresh flower garlands. They just have some fake, pom-pom balls or something, because they don't have enough people there to do all the services. So they do the basic stuff. Do whatever's easy. So, yeah, it's one of the very beautiful things about Prabhupada's movement, about ISKCON, is that, yeah, Prabhupada really pushed for this high standard of deity worship and, the deity worship ministry, and we try to keep Krishna happy by giving him nice meals cooked every day by qualified Brahmins, and fresh flower garlands, and new outfit every day, and new outfits made on festival days, and special things like Pushpa Abhishek, celebrating all the festivals nicely. So that's very special. That's unique, right? You don't see that everywhere. You don't really see a lot of that outside of ISKCON. So there's a lot of power, a lot of purity, and a lot of devotion in this movement. Lucky to be part of it.
Especially changing the outfits more 2 times a day.
Right? 2 times a day.
Yeah, that's a lot. And 6 times the boga.
Yeah.
It's a-
Yeah,
it's
hardly
a lot.
anyone's doing those things. 6 offerings.
Morning 4 o'clock, 4:30.
Mangalarti.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to wrap it up. Hopefully see, oh, yeah, tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place, same link. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Krishna Goswami ki jai.